Every day, drones are improving lives, optimizing operations, and transforming societies. But a small portion of operators are causing chaos, endangering lives, and posing a threat to safety and national security. Traditional counter-UAS solutions are often not suitable as the sole component of a counter-UAS strategy. They can interfere with communications and authorized drones and cause collateral damage or even fail to detect the threat. D-Fend Solutions focuses on the real threat: dangerous drones that can carry heavy payloads, travel long distances, and are readily accessible. Enforce Air, D-Fend Solutions' flagship counter-drone solution, protects military, public safety, airport, border, VIP, prison, major event, and critical infrastructure environments. It has been deployed hundreds of times worldwide. Enforce Air features radio frequency cyber takeover technology. It automatically detects, locates, and identifies rogue drones and their pilots, and then mitigates the drone. Enforce Air is set up quickly. The hardware is compact and can be rapidly disassembled, moved, and reassembled for operational flexibility. As soon as rogue drones enter the protected area, they are detected and an alert is immediately activated. Their unique communication identifiers are extracted and the takeoff location is discovered. Enforce Air's unique takeover technology automatically takes control and operators lose their communication signals. They cannot control their drones or renew contact. Authorized drones in the area are unaffected. The rogue drones are sent along their designated route, ending in a safe landing. A safe outcome is achieved without disrupting the continuity of communications, commerce, transportation, or everyday life. D-Fend Solutions constantly develops new capabilities to always stay a drone threat ahead.
Hello, welcome everyone. This is Jeffrey Starr with D-Fend Solutions. We're here to present counter-drone discoveries, taking control of the drone threat in today's sensitive and challenging environments. D-Fend Solutions is very proud to partner with IDGA. We did a very comprehensive survey of security professionals just like yourselves. And we have some very interesting and exciting findings and implications from that survey. So we're going to review that survey, look at the results. This is the voice of you, the practitioners talking. And then my colleague is going to review some of the implications of those findings. So basically, to just introduce myself briefly, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of D-Fend Solutions. And my colleague will be picking up the presentation a little bit later. Terry DiVittorio, who's the GM of D-Fend Solutions North America. Again, I'll be reviewing the market research that we did with IDGA, and then Terry will be talking about some of the implications of our findings. I just want to take a step back and talk about the survey. This is quite exciting. Again, IDGA completely managed and operated and ran the survey. This is a survey of their database of security professionals, including people like yourselves in the audience. And we really wanted to focus on the practitioners, the users, the experts. There was never really a survey done like this before, completely focused on the point of view of the operators as it relates to C-UAS activities. And so in order to qualify for this survey, we asked a very simple question. It was a very important hurdle. We said, are you involved in your organization's current or future counter-drone operations or system selection? We didn't want the people 10 levels up or 10 levels down. We wanted the people directly involved and engaged in this. And you had to say yes. So basically, anyone who said yes, they're directly involved with counter-UAS activities, was admitted to the survey and conducted the survey. So we really found this to be a very highly qualified group. We also wanted to make sure we had an interesting cross-section of different types of security agencies and security organizations. And certainly we did, thanks to IDGA's great membership base, subscriber base, and database. And you can see here in this chart, the great cross-section and diversity of different sectors. And the three biggest sectors you can see, which made up over 80% of the sample was, first of all, about 40% on the military side, military and special forces, at 23% national security and homeland security, and 19% on law enforcement. So we felt that was a great representation of counter-drone activity in terms of the different agencies. And we also had a nice representation of some other segments, including local government, prisons, first responders, VIP protection, stadiums, and so forth. But this was a great mirror, and we'll talk about how that mirrors the sectors that we've seen in terms of usage of counter-drone technologies. Now, the first thing we wanted to see is what's been happening over the past year in terms of activity level, especially given the momentous activity around COVID and things like that. We were very interested. And sure enough, you've all been experiencing quite an increase in activity. In fact, close to a third had more than 10 drone incidents to deal with in their site or in their enterprise or in their activity. And then if you go to 6 to 10 or more than 10, we're talking about 42% are dealing with a continuous stream of activities anywhere from every month or two to much, much, much more than that. And some of them were significantly more than 10. So this has gone well beyond the onesie, twosie type of activities. And this is really an intense stream of incidents that most of you are having to deal with in your own facility, your own site, your own security agency. So again, the number of incidents seems to be getting pretty intense. Now, it's not just a question of the volume of incidents, but what is the implications? What are the consequences? What did this cause in terms of the immediate consequences on the organization? Interestingly, there's a whole range of potentially harmful or negative activity. The one that overwhelmingly came out as the biggest issue was operational disruption. 63% claimed that these drone incidents are causing day-to-day operational disruption. So the issue is one of continuity. The issue is one of maintaining the business or continuity, everyday life, 63%. In addition, of course, there were a range of other things that were affecting the organization: damage to property, reputational harm, human injury or death in the catastrophic situation, transportation, communications disruption. All of those were definite occurrences, but operational disruption was overwhelmingly the biggest implication. Now, we also wanted to understand the trend. How is this happening compared to past years? How has this past year been? And again, it was quite overwhelming. 63% of you claimed to see an increase in the number of rogue drone incidents. And then 15% no change, and only 6% a decrease. So when you look at that, again, this is another occurrence that the enterprise, that the organizations, the security agencies are dealing with a really rapidly changing landscape. 63% had an increase in incidents. And we can imagine if it wasn't for some of the slowdowns with COVID, that would have been even higher. But 63% in that kind of year was quite consequential. Now, we wanted to take a step back and say, okay, what is the nature of the threat? How much do you feel this is a threat? Just to kind of get some validation. And certainly 78% said rogue drones entering the airspace are now a threat to either operations, facilities, or people. 78% strongly agreed, and for another 14% somewhat agreed. So this is, you could call this an area of overwhelming consensus across the security community when over 90% agree that rogue drones have become a serious, significant day-to-day kind of threat. Now, we talked earlier about what the outcomes have been, but what about going forward? What sort of outcomes is the organization concerned about, and how might this change? And here again, operational disruption continues to be the biggest concern, close to 90% feeling that this is going to be an ongoing issue. But there's also some concern that it's going to get worse, that the risk is going to get higher, with 75% really worried about a major catastrophic event that could cause human injury or death, 67% concerned about property damage, and you can see communications disruption, transportation disruption are all well over 50%. So there's a concern that not only is it increasing, not only is it rising, but the potential and the consequences are really there for a much, much worse situation as these incidents continue to occur and as drones become, the drone threat becomes more powerful. Now, the other thing that was interesting is we see increasing sophistication on the part of the practitioner or the security community in terms of assessing threats and what are the different kinds of threats. So what we see is that people are actually now really looking at the different types of drones and what the consequences, what the risk factors are that generate the risk level of any given drone. And we find here that, for example, the ability to fly long distances is a factor. Among 90% of the respondents felt that that was something that makes a specific type of drone dangerous. Ability to carry a heavy payload was 81%, and then ruggedization against weather was 62%. But this reflects a growing sophistication on the part of the security community in terms of analyzing specific drones and understanding that not all drones are equal, not all drones are alike, that there is in fact significant differentiation, and the countermeasures must take into account which drones, which types of drones or models or protocols can carry with them these special characteristics that lead to increased risk. Now, how are you prepared? What types of measures or plans have been put into place? And this was interesting. We see that over half have started to do some kind of sophisticated threat analysis where you kind of map out the different types of drones and the different types of responses. Another 28% have put together kind of a mild plan or a moderate plan, where a simplified plan where all rogue drones are seen at the same level. And much smaller percent still haven't gotten with the program and haven't done any plan or preparation whatsoever. So this is really important because later on in this presentation, Terry will be presenting a deeper assessment of what are the different types of drones and the different types of threats they represent, and how organizations from a best practices point of view have to take that into account, that differentiated drone threat. Now, this is where we really wanted to understand the feelings and the input and the opinions of the security community on the current traditional technologies which are being used and employed to deal with the drone threat. And we started by the two major technologies that are used for mitigation. Specifically, we started with jamming. So we made a statement. We said the potential of jamming-based C-UAS systems to disrupt internal or nearby communications is problematic enough to actually avoid adopting such a system. So we really wanted to understand what is the perception on jamming in sensitive environments and urban environments as the primary basis of a C-UAS system. The results were really stark and direct, that over 50% agreed, 53% agreed that jamming in and of itself could potentially be disruptive enough to the nearby communications to actually want to avoid jamming as a methodology, as a technology in the counter-UAS system. Only 22% disagreed and 25% were neutral on it. But again, over 50% agreed that jamming is problematic. And Terry will talk more about the implications of that and some of the potential effects. The other classic technology or method that's used to deal with drones is kinetic, anything physical, shooting down a drone, throwing a net over a drone, using a laser against a drone, using a drone killing drone, but anything that's physical or kinetic. So and we know that that has definite advantages in terms of efficacy, but it also has potential risks in terms of if the projectile misses, what could be the collateral damage, or even if the projectile hits the drone, the potential for collateral damage of the drone itself, the down drone itself. Is that problematic enough to want to avoid a kinetic method? Again, here we had 59% agreed, either strongly agree or somewhat agree, that physical or kinetic solutions by themselves as the centerpiece of a counter-drone solution in urban environments is potentially problematic. Only 24% disagreed and 17% were neutral. So again, you have an emerging opinion from the security community, from the grassroots, if you will, from the practitioners, that kinetic or physical solutions alone are problematic, and in fact, to the point of sometimes not wanting that as the central part of a layered defense strategy. So, and then we took all of those last two questions to the next level. Do you think that the risk of damage caused by such counter-drone measures or actions could sometimes actually be worse than the damage from the rogue drone itself? And here, again, it was very remarkable. Over 50% said yes, this is a possibility. 19% said certainly yes. So you have 70% saying either yes or it's possible that the risks of jamming or the risks of kinetic could, in certain situations, be worse than the damage from the rogue drone itself. We thought that was a remarkable finding, and that we really wanted to explore and discuss more with you in terms of the implications. Some of the other issues out there involve the proliferation of friendly drones, of authorized drones in the area. Is there a concern that counter-drone systems could harm or disable friendly drones authorized during a rogue drone incident? And over close to 50% said this was possible, 28% said yes. So again, you have more than 3/4 of the respondents concerned that existing counter-drone technologies are potentially problematic in terms of the impact they may have on authorized drones in the area. Finally, we kind of wanted to wrap it all up and say, okay, now that we've talked about the different possibilities, the different technologies, the consequences of the different technologies, what's the best possible outcome of a rogue drone incident given a range of optional outcomes? This was very interesting. When we asked takeover of a drone, followed by safe landing, or sending the drone back where it came from, those two, what I would call controlled option choices, got to be about 3/4. So about 75% wanted some kind of highly controlled outcome, either take over the drone or fending off the drone, sending it back where it came from. Only 17% felt jamming and disconnecting was the ideal outcome, and only 7% said a physical kinetic solution is the best possible outcome. So that was also very stark and very interesting, again, listening to the security establishment on that, the actual practitioners. And then finally, all of this points to a theme of continuity. Continuity meaning communications, transportation, commerce, everyday life. How important is continuity? And again, overwhelming 86% said maintaining continuity during a rogue drone incident is of paramount concern. So that was a kind of a cross section of hearing from the community and the security community, the grassroots, if you will, you, the practitioners. And with that, I'm going to we're going to briefly go over to a demo where we can actually show a counter drone takeover in action in an urban environment. After which, my colleague Terry is going to pick up and talk about some of the implications of these findings.
Traditional counter-drone solutions offer some advantages, but they are ineffective in urban and sensitive environments. This demo shows the benefits of D-Fend's takeover technology. Enforce Air, D-Fend Solutions' flagship counter-drone system, offers the ultimate in operational flexibility. System assembly is quick and easy. Readiness is achieved within minutes. The system's core elements can be easily transferred, mounted, and configured to help system operators maintain continuity while on the move. Simultaneously, two malicious actors prepare to cause harm with their drones. Enforce Air is now operational and monitoring the area for any rogue drones. Unauthorized drones will soon enter the defined protected zone, immediately triggering an alert from the system. Their unique communication identifiers are extracted and the takeoff location is discovered. D-Fend Solutions' proven system initiates and executes the mitigation process for each of the rogue drones. Enforce Air's innovative takeover technology is activated and the two pilots lose communication signals. These criminals cannot control their drones or re-establish the connection between the drones and the remote controls. Authorized drones in the area are unaffected. The drones have been taken over and rerouted by Enforce Air. They are following predefined routes in the designated landing zone. Both drones land safely, ready for collection and inspection at the defined landing point. With Enforce Air, it is easy to handle drone incidents and keep everyone in the area safe. D-Fend Solutions ensures the smooth flow of communications, commerce, transportation, and everyday life. Enforce Air empowers organizations across sectors to take complete control in sensitive situations. The drone threat is constantly evolving, so D-Fend Solutions tirelessly develops new capabilities to stay a drone threat ahead.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Terry DiVittorio. I'm the General Manager for D-Fend Solutions. I manage all of our business here in the US and Canada, where we have our technology and system providing counter-UAS protection deployed across all the sectors you see here on this slide. And I thought it was great that we have representation from our partners at IDGA with respondents' input from all of these cross sectors that you see here, where each of these specific verticals have now either through their own realization over the last year to 2 years of the drone threat and the proliferation of drones, or are coming into the know that the drone problem is not going away. In fact, it's only becoming more problematic. The military and special forces obviously fending off and dealing with drones being flown against them from our adversaries to conduct intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and actually even include delivery of payloads, explosives that are being used in a hostile manner by those rogue forces. In the law enforcement first responder community, clearly a drone problem has existed and continues to exist there, where a counter-UAS system in a highly populated urban environment that's able to mitigate the collateral damage while also being able to preserve the continuity that Jeffrey had talked about and respondents commented on with regards to essential communications. We see this more prolific, though, and more prominent in the air traffic and aviation airport security space, where a drone flying in and around restricted airspace and colliding with a commercial aircraft is a real threat scenario today that all airports around the world are dealing with. However, the essential communications of the air traffic control towers with the planes, with ground activities, as well as security detail activity going on within the airport must be maintained while trying to mitigate the drone threat. From government VIP protection through homeland and national security activities, being able to preserve, again, the critical communications that must be maintained or sustained while the drone threat is mitigated is a high priority across those markets, as well as in the maritime and the border environments where drones are being used today to conduct surveillance on ships passing through ports of entry or attack ships with explosives or other types of explosive ordnance, and along the border to monitor potential drug cartels bringing in narcotics across the border, surveying border crossing activities, and the Border Patrol's ability to mitigate crossings and other types of nefarious or illegal activities. So a wide range, if you will, of application configurations and deployment options to serve these specific verticals, as each of these verticals deal with the increased drone threat. Next slide, please. But your drone threat is not new news. If you're paying attention to this, and this is a community who is very much ingrained in watching the effects of this in the evolving threat environment, drones are popping up now routinely in the news. From Gatwick Airport in England, where for several days airport operations were disrupted from a drone, to the former President's Air Force One plane coming in close contact with drones, to just this past weekend, 2 stories about an airport here in the US being closed down for several hours due to a drone entering restricted airspace, and a story that broke over the last several hours about a US citizen using a drone to courier narcotics across the border from Mexico. So these stories will continue. The drone problem is not going away. And as this problem continues to evolve, the need for effective countermeasures or counter-UAS protection systems is only going to increase. Next slide, please. As Jeffrey talked about, we focused on, why are drones an issue, and why is the concern there within these vertical markets for mitigating the drone threat, and what types of drones and what type of drone activity are you most concerned about? We're seeing probably the most significant increase in drone activity requiring counter-UAS functionality or capability is in what we refer to as high endurance drones, or what the Department of Defense has classified as group 1 and 2, or maybe even group 3 drones. Smaller drones that can travel large distances or long distances and carry some significant payloads. But the accessibility to these drones is something that is quite simple and quite easy, from a careless, clueless hobbyist to a nefarious bad actor being able to go on to Amazon, acquire a drone, have it delivered the next day without any type of background check, and then fly the drone without any real certification. And these drones can carry, payloads up to 20 kilograms, 20 grams, and travel distances up to 20 kilometers. So this is where the drone threat really has honed in on where the types of mitigation and countermeasures need to be put in place to focus on these heavy payload drones and distances that they can fly, do-it-yourself drones, which are some kind of hybrid between a drone that has been purchased and then kind of fixating it with a do-it-yourself type of delivery mechanism, as well as small Wi-Fi drones, which are now very, very capable of flying longer distances and carrying payloads and conducting nefarious activities. So these are the types of drone threats that we focused on in the specific IDGA survey that we conducted. Thanks, Jeffrey. Next slide. So the convergence of long-range drones, heavy payloads, and accessibilities has created this most likely threats quadrant that we focus on. And this is what we're feedback from our customers and those who supported the survey have kind of pointed to, is that the real concern is that this capability is easily accessible. It's something that can travel a distance that, from a faraway location, a drone operator can deliver this mechanism or a specific type of payload. And then the payload itself being something that, could cause significant damage, not only the drone itself crashing, but also what the drone may be carrying. Next slide. And in those kind of scenarios, we focused on, what type of drone threats, exist from the different types of drones. We know that drones can carry some type of armament and conduct attack itself. It can drop some type of payload or carry some type of weapon, or the drone itself can be used to crash into something. The drone can collide with an aircraft, could collide with a building, could collide with really anything that the drone operator targets and focuses it to deliver on. We know that drones are being used to smuggle narcotics across the border for drug cartels, but in the correctional facilities and prison environments, drones are now the #1 contraband delivery mechanism for bringing contraband into the correctional facilities and prison environments. Drones are outfitted with some very sophisticated cameras with great range, and are being used to conduct espionage, both domestically and internationally. Then lastly, the harassment and nuisance from a drone that's flying in airspace, that maybe it should not be flying in, causing some concerns about the danger of the drone crashing or what it may be taking pictures of with its camera. So these are all the types of drone threats that exist today and are expanding and growing on a daily basis. Next slide. So traditional technologies that we talked about through the survey include a couple of different ways to detect and mitigate drones: kinetic, jamming, or with a RF cyber takeover. Traditional detection capabilities include radars, optical sensors, directional finding antennas, and acoustics to alert an operator that there could be a potential drone in the environment. And I say potential because with each of those types of mechanisms, there's a high amount of false positives that are registered within those detection capabilities. And all those detection capabilities require a clear line of sight to conduct their ability to identify, track, and monitor any type of specific air activity that could be a drone. Now, on the mitigation side, it's a little different. Current traditional technologies focused on jamming or kinetic, as Jeffrey talked about. And there's some problems associated with both of those technologies and capabilities that Jeffrey highlighted, as well as respondents in the survey, in the comments that they made, or in the percentages we saw associated with signal disruption, which disrupts continuity of operations, and collateral damage, where that drone is going to come down if it's jammed, or if it's shut down with some type of projectile, it's going to come down and potentially cause even greater damage than the rogue drone itself. Next slide, please. Another important aspect of any counter-UAS protection system is the ability to identify an authorized drone from an unauthorized drone or friend from foe. In an airport environment, for example, there are drones that are being used to provide security. There could be construction going on at the airport where these drones are providing support to a construction site. And those drones must be in a way to distinguish between what a potential rogue drone is and then allowed to continue flying within that controlled airspace. So a counter-UAS system that's able to actually ascertain between what is an authorized drone and then potentially whitelist that drone for continued flight operations, and then focus in on a rogue drone or an unauthorized drone that may be able to present, that may present some type of threat to the environment, and then be able to react or respond appropriately to that specific foe or threat. Next slide, Jeffrey. So in sensitive environments, the real solution might be along the lines of some type of detection mechanism that is a radio frequency cyber detection system that doesn't have a line of sight limitation and doesn't present any false positives. So the ability to actually use the RF spectrum and then a mechanism by which cyber effects are used to monitor that environment and detect, in fact, what is an authorized drone from an unauthorized drone without any limitations of line of sight. And then, of course, being able to ascertain what is a bird, which is a plane, which is a helicopter, and then specifically what is a particular type of drone and drone protocol, and to be able to register that system to enable the operator then to make a decision on what to do next. And that decision is do I continue to let that drone fly as an authorized drone and potentially whitelist it, or do I conduct some type of mitigation activity to remove the threat from that specific sensitive environment? And so an RF cyber takeover capability is something where, if employed effectively, disconnects the communication between the remote control operator and the drone, and then safe routes that drone out of the sensitive environment in a way that does not increase or introduce any type of collateral damage, and then safe land that drone in an area where it's away from any type of population element, any type of infrastructure element, any type of critical asset element, so that authorities can figure out what to do next with that drone. So the mitigation function associated with that, of course, is very, very particular with regards to the surgical way that the RF cyber takeover works, and then mitigating the drone through a safe route to a safe landing point. Next slide, Jeffrey. So how does cyber takeover technology actually work? Well, it works within the RF cyber environment, the ability to manipulate the signal between the remote control operator and the drone itself, and severing that communication, but not alerting the drone to any type of activity that might be going on that's out of the ordinary from its communication with its remote control operator. When a system is able to then take control of that drone, the drone believes it's still communicating with its remote controller and will still take direction on where to go, where to fly, where to land from its remote controller. So a system that's able to actually mimic, if you will, the remote control operator, the remote control, and then take control of that drone and speak that drone's language, can then control the drone and essentially control the threat. So the ability to detect where a drone is, where it's going, tracking and monitoring, determine if it's authorized or unauthorized, and then if it's determined is unauthorized and presents a threat, then take that drone out of the picture by severing the communications and then controlling the drone through a safe route to a safe landing. Now, what an RF cyber takeover system isn't, it's not jamming. It does not disrupt the other essential communication systems that may be operating in and around that environment. So first responders nets, air traffic control nets, other communication systems and Wi-Fi system signals are not disrupted through an RF cyber takeover where a jamming system might do that. It's non-kinetic. It doesn't project any type of weapon or any projectile, laser, drone on drone, or a drone flying over that drone and casting it over it. And then lastly, an RF cyber takeover system requires no line of sight. So it's ideal for a highly populated urban environment where large buildings and infrastructure are in place, where the system is not inhibited by its ability to not be able to see where the drone is and where it's flying, to still be able to conduct the takeover and safe land functionality. Next slide. So in designing a system like this, you've got to put into place a series of protocols. And this is a life cycle or paradigm that we've designed into our system, where first, with a system positioned in an environment like a downtown city area or a stadium or an airport where it's a highly densely populated, high density and highly populated area, the ability to first detect and alert an operator that a drone is flown into this no-fly zone. Locate and track the drone. Okay, so where is the drone? How far is it from what is essentially the critical area for which we want to make sure it doesn't fly into, and then establish an ability to monitor that drone's flight activity. As I said earlier, though, there's authorized drones and there are unauthorized drones flying in these environments. And so the ability to identify an authorized drone from unauthorized or friend from foe, and then whitelisting the friendly drones to allow them to continue to perform whatever function they are, and focus then on the threat that exists with the unauthorized or rogue drone. Another important piece, though, that we have engineered into our system, and that is an important component of any RF system, is the ability to discover the pilot's location and identification of where the drone took off from, so its home location. Now, this aids immeasurably in a law enforcement environment or scenario, or the Border Patrol scenario, where they want to determine where is the bad person flying this drone, is conducting this illegal activity, so we can not only track the drone and its flight pattern, and then take control and safe land it and get whatever potential payload it's carrying, but can we also get the drone operator who's conducting this illegal activity? So that's another component that's very important in the life cycle. All of these passive type activities are done through listening, with a system that's able to, within the RF cyber environment, track, detect, alert, track, locate, identify, and then discover locations. Then a decision needs to be made what to do with this drone if it's determined that it's rogue or that it's some unauthorized drone. And there are two ways, within this mitigate environment, where you can either fend the drone off, send it back to its home location, or you can take control of the drone, route it out of the sensitive area, and land it in a pre-designated landing zone. Next slide, please. All of this really drives home the idea or concept of continuity. And from our perspective, that's the number one goal and one of the highest percentages of concern from the respondents that contributed to the survey. From our perspective, controlling the drone allows us to control the threat. It drives a high level of safety within the environment, but we're able to safe land the drone in a place where we determine it's best for the outcome, as well as preserving the airspace and other essential operations. Our focus, as I explained earlier, is really on the group 1, 2, and 3 drones, those drones that are now able to fly farther distances, carry greater payloads, easily accessible, and are now prolific in the skies around us today. And then always being future ready, knowing that this is a cat and mouse game. For every countermeasure that our customers or those who have a counter-UAS protection mission have, there is going to be some nefarious actor, some bad element who's trying to evade that specific countermeasure. So we have to keep pace with the new drones that are rolling off the manufacturing line, the new protocols that are introduced, and always stay one drone step ahead or one drone threat ahead of the competition in the fight against those who would use drones to conduct bad activities or nefarious types of activities. So as we said, continuity is key, maintaining essential communications, transportation, commerce, and everyday life that will be impacted by the continued proliferation of drones and the need for counter-UAS protection systems to keep pace with the drone environment. So our focus, again, on continuity and really focusing on staying one drone threat ahead. Now, I'd like to finish with a video, as we showed you 2 others before, but this is really a video focused on a counter-UAS system like the Enforce Air system from D-Fend, operating in a rural environment. So thank you again for your time. It was great talking with you, and thank you for having us.
D-Fend Solutions Enforce Air is an advanced autonomous counter-drone system which takes control over rogue commercial drones and lands them safely in a designated safe zone without affecting legitimate drones and without interfering with other communication signals such as Wi-Fi and GPS. Enforce Air offers the ultimate in operational flexibility. System assembly is quick and easy. Readiness is achieved within minutes. The system's core elements can be easily transferred, mounted, and configured to help maintain continuity while on the move. Enforce Air is now operational and monitoring the area for any rogue drones. 2 unauthorized drones enter the defined pre-protected zone, immediately triggering an alert from the system. The unauthorized drones' GPS locations are identified, as well as their home locations, which indicate the pilot's locations at the time of the drone's takeoff helping law enforcement or special forces to find the pilots and prevent future incidents. Enforce Air initiates and executes the mitigation process for each of the rogue drones. Enforce Air's takeover technology is activated, and the two pilots lose communication signals. They cannot control their drones or re-establish the connection between the drones and the remote controls. Both drones have been taken over and rerouted by Enforce Air to the designated safe landing zone. Both drones land safely, ready for collection and inspection at the predefined landing point. With Enforce Air, D-Fend Solutions safely ensures the smooth flow of communications, commerce, transportation, and everyday life.